Before we begin, we will proceed with the ASEAN anthem.
Praise our flag, high, sky high, embrace the pride in our heart. ASEAN, we are bonded as one, looking out to the world. For peace our goal from the very start, and prosperity to last.
Please be seated. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. We are delighted to welcome you to the ASEAN Hall for the briefing on the outcomes of the 46th ASEAN Summit, 2nd ASEAN-GCC Summit, and ASEAN-GCC-China Summit, which will be delivered by His Excellency Dr. Kau Kim Hoon, Secretary-General of ASEAN. For this occasion, we are not only joined by the diplomatic corps in Jakarta, but also by representative of the ASEAN Committee in Third Countries and International Organization, ACTCs, who are attending this briefing virtually. This briefing is also live streamed to the public through the ASEAN Secretariat YouTube channel. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, we would like to kindly invite His Excellency Dr. Kau Kim Hoon, Secretary-General of ASEAN, to deliver his briefing. SG Dr. Kau, please.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, ambassadors of the ASEAN member states, ambassadors of the dialogue partners, ASEAN sectoral partners, diplomatic partners, external partners, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, members of media, I also want to extend a warm welcome to our ambassadors that are based in the ASEAN communities in third countries from around the world. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be able to brief you this morning on the key outcomes of the 46th ASEAN Summit, the second ASEAN-GCC Summit, the ASEAN-GCC-China Summit, and of course, the two sub-regional summits as well. This year, the theme that Malaysia had put forward and become the ASEAN chairman theme for this year is sustainable and inclusivity and sustainability. So these two keywords that would encapsulate the work of ASEAN. In terms of the participation, the substance, the organization, I would say, based on my experience, that the summits were successful. They went very well. And I think they achieved the goals that were put forward. Well, first of all, I want to share with Your Excellency that these summits were chaired personally by the Honorable Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia, and the ASEAN Chair for 2025. He shared every meeting, and I could see the way each meeting was conducted. We had all the leaders were there, all ASEAN leaders were present. And this is very important to have all the leaders from the ASEAN member states were present, of course, with the exception of Myanmar, that was represented by the non-political representative, who happened to be the permanent secretary from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Myanmar. As you can see, I want to also take this opportunity to congratulate Malaysia for these successful meetings. But prior to the summits, we had a series of meetings, particularly the ministerial meetings, the foreign ministers meeting, the council meetings from the political security pillar, also from the ASEAN Economic Community Council pillar, council as well, and the ASCC, the social cultural pillar as well, but they were convened a little bit earlier. Now, if you look at in terms of outcomes for this summits, we have 22 outcome documents that were produced as the major outcomes of the summits. Two things I want to flag. Basically, this is more internal to ASEAN. I would call the twin successes of ASEAN was the launch of the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 and the 4 strategic plans. This is not just a vision, but a long-term roadmap to chart out how ASEAN will navigate in the next 20 years. So this is very significant to have this document in place. So it's not just the leaders, the ministers, or senior officials, but all stakeholders can look at the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 along with the 4 strategic plans, how we're going to work together. So I think we're going to be transparent, how things will be done, what challenges we anticipate, what objectives and strategic measures that we'll be undertaking. So these were clearly outcome. And of course, through this is the sign of the Kuala Lumpur Declaration on ASEAN 2045, our shared future. It's very short, very condensed. The titles are very condensed. So it's easy to remember. The other success is the admission of Timor-Leste as a full member, as an 11th member. You know very well Timor-Leste applied to become an ASEAN member back in 2011. In 2022, Timor-Leste was admitted as an observer. And at the 46th ASEAN Summit on May 26th, during the plenary session, there were 2 parts. One was the plenary, the second part, the retreat. Leaders made the political decision that Timor-Leste will be admitted as the 11th member, but the formal admission will take place in October at the 47th ASEAN Summit. Between now until October, we will have some important work to do. Okay, particularly looking at the various instruments that Timor-Leste will have to finalize. But it's the beginning, of course, it's going to be ongoing. Also, I want to share with you, we have officially operationalized the Timor-Leste unit within ASEAN Secretariat. So this unit now is in operation with 3 key staff that constantly working on the various issues related to the membership, fulfillment, and obligations. I think this is something that we're going to work very closely within the ASEAN Secretariat. I want to share with you, Your Excellency, that our leaders had a very frank, candid discussions on the various issues. Okay, and of course, these are ranging from our internal issues like Myanmar to the economic issues, what we need to do among the 10 countries. Also, the exchange views on regional and international issues as well. But I want to say that beside these meetings, they had many bilateral meetings between themselves, of course, also our partners from the Gulf Cooperation Council, member states, from China as well. So the whole process has been trying to build, continue to increase the reservoir of trust, not only among ASEAN member states, but between ASEAN and, of course, countries that partners that we work with in the region and around the world. I also want to highlight that I want to come back a little bit on to highlight on the 20-year vision a little bit, because I want to make sure that you have a clear picture. The vision, 20-year vision, is backed up by the 4 strategic plans. The 4 strategic plans, each one has to do with the pillar, the 3 pillars and connectivity. Now, for example, for the political security, ASEAN political security community strategic plan, we have laid out 9 strategic goals, 178 strategic measures. These are the things that we lay out, but when it comes to action lines, we need to work with our sectoral bodies under the political security community. So all these sectoral bodies under the political security pillar will work closely looking at the strategic goals and the strategic measures, and we will define action line much more concrete and how we're going to be able to implement all of them. So it's not a top-down approach only, but a bottom-up also, meaning that those sectoral bodies that will be involved, because they will have the ownership of the whole process as well. Yeah, I think this is very, very clear, very, very important. That has been the discussion from the very beginning, and it's important that we have to come up with concrete action plans later on. For the ASEAN Economic Community, we also have 6 strategic goals and 192 strategic measures. So I think this is very, very important in terms of, I think the goal here is how to realize a single market and production base as stipulated in the ASEAN Charter between now and 20 years, between now and the next 20 years. But under the AC strategic plan, we have only 5 years. This is the only pillar that we have 5 years. The rest we have 10 years. Because our economic ministers and senior officials believe that economic developments, they are moving forward too rapidly. Okay, so that's why they have only the 5-year strategic plans. But of course, later on, they have to come up more after that. And again, we have to look at how we reach that goal. So again, we have to come up with the action plans later on by involving all the stakeholders, not only in those ASEAN sectoral bodies, but of course also the private sector as well. For the ASEC, the ASEAN Social Cultural Community, they also, the strategic plan, they have 12 strategic goals and 112 strategic measures. This is very, very important in terms of how we're going to build a people-oriented community. As you all know, we always equate the social cultural pillar as the people's pillar, and how we're going to be able to support our people, whether we talk about education, public health, disaster management, all of these are under this particular pillar. Finally, of course, on the ASEAN Connectivity Strategic Plan. Again, here we have 6 strategic goals and 49 strategic measures. Connectivity has always been one of the key priorities for ASEAN. So again, under this vision that we have, 20 vision, we also have the strategic plan for the ASEAN connectivity as well. Yes. Your Excellencies, I want to also share with you that the leaders also adopted the Kuala Lumpur Declaration on the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the ASEAN community, meaning that the ASEAN community was set up back in 2015 during Malaysian Championship. And at the time, the leaders adopted and launched the ASEAN Community Vision 2025. Okay. So this year is 2025, so we're just about to conclude this 10-year vision, which is basically the first phase of our community building. So the leaders adopt this declaration to look at what we have achieved, and I want to share with you in terms of the actual implementation. It's not just a declaration, a vision, a statement, and we did nothing, no. We did a lot of work. For the ASEAN political security blueprint, we call it blueprint at the time, had a blueprint, strategic plan, or action plan, but this one we call the blueprint at the time, 4 blueprints. So under ASEAN political security community blueprint, we achieved 99.6% with only 1 action line remain. Okay, and that's something we continue to do. For the ASEAN Economic Community Blueprint, we achieved 97%. Okay, for the ASEAN Social Cultural Blueprint, we achieved 99%. And for the master plan of what we call connectivity, ASEAN connectivity, we achieved 83.9%. At the moment, we're doing 2 things with regard to this 10-year vision of the ASEAN community 2025. One, we continue to finalize implementing it, because essentially this blueprint will not come to an end until the end of this year. And the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 will start the implementation only from January next year. But I think we always do things ahead. Also, what we're doing now is to undertake end-term review. So we will review every one of them to make sure what has gone right, what didn't go quite right, what are the lessons learned, so that we can, all right, look at lessons learned. Very, very important. What are the practical lessons learned that will be useful for the implementation of the new strategic plans that will be starting to implement by early next year. As you see, this is something that I want to share with you explicitly to make sure that we have clear understanding there. Now, come back to the issue of Timor-Leste. I know there's going to be a lot of questions with regard to that. Timor-Leste, okay, 2 things here. One, prior to the 46th ASEAN Summit, the ASEAN Forums met. They had a lot of discussion. But then they also reconstitute themselves into the Southeast Asian Nuclear Weapon Free Zone Commission. Okay, because we are talking about how to admit a new member into this commission, into the SONFES. Okay, so the members of the SONFES Commission adopted the addendum to the SONFES Treaty in order to allow Timor-Leste accession to this treaty as a member. So the decision has been made already that Timor-Leste has officially been admitted into the SONFES Treaty SONFES Commission formally. And this addendum was deposited with the Kingdom of Thailand. The Kingdom of Thailand is the depository state of SONFES Treaty. Okay, so I want to share with you that this is quite significant because it's not an easy just become a joint SONFES Commission. It's so easy. No, it's a process. It's a lot of work there to make sure that each new member has to fulfill its obligation. But then there is still a process, meaning that Timor-Leste has to go back, get its parliament to ratify. The same thing. So I think the process opened the door forward to become a member, but it's not done yet. There is the ratification process that needs to be done in the meantime. The moment it's completed, the moment deposited and accepted by all the SONFES Commission, that's when it's completely official. Yes. So I want to share with your Excellency this is a very important point as well. So it's not just become the 11th member of ASEAN, but at the same time, the SONFES Treaty is equally important because right now ASEAN is pushing ahead on the need to ensure that Southeast Asia is a nuclear-free region, a region free of nuclear weapons. Yes. I can see, ladies and gentlemen, let me move on. Also, I want to say a few things about Timor-Leste unit that has been operationalized, has been reported to as an foreign minister and the leaders to make sure that they are fully aware and, of course, being updated on what's happening on the ground. So this Timor-Leste unit has been set up in order to monitor, to coordinate, and facilitate all work related to Timor-Leste membership in ASEAN. Okay? Because there's a lot of obligations as a new member. Once you become a member, you have the same obligations as the other member states of ASEAN. So I think this is crucial. So I think we will have staff working constantly on this. I can see, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to also touch on one other issue that took place right in Kuala Lumpur in KL early this week. And that is the completion of the negotiation of the ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement, ADIGA. Spent a lot of time to upgrade this ADIGA agreement. And we will still have a number of pending issues. But early this week, our economic minister, and I want to also give the credit to ASEAN chair, which is economic minister of Malaysia, but in particular, Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore, Deputy Prime Minister Gang, who has been very inspiring leading this whole process. And of course, all the member states coming together. The time has come. There's a clear impetus that we had to get it done. And it was nailed down and completed. So I think we expect to sign this protocol for full upgrade in October this year, I think, or earlier. So it's very clear that the ASEAN single market, this is the goal. We are approaching that because the idea is to increase interest in trade as part of overall the ASEAN trade. So we had to bring down tariffs and non-tariff barriers as much as possible. At the same time, of course, leaders are anticipating, very much anticipating, on the completion of the negotiations for the ASEAN Digital Economy Framework Agreement, DIFA. I think there's a lot of discussion, a lot of interest in the area, because we want to finalize this as early as possible within this year. Yes. I want to shift a little bit, Your Excellency, to two important issues that the leaders took up and they spent the whole time of their retreat. They zero in on two issues. One is Myanmar. Second is the impact of U.S. tariffs, all right, on ASEAN, both collectively and individually. There was no time spent on the ASEAN. These were the two issues that were that preoccupied, I think, the discussion. On Myanmar, it's very clear. I think it's that the leaders now believe that, number one, the 5-point consensus remains relevant, remains valid. But at the same time, the leaders now, I would say there is a emerging consensus now to have a long-term or more permanent special envoy to ASEAN on Myanmar, the special envoy, okay, on Myanmar, meaning that looking at someone who will dedicate his or her time to work specifically on Myanmar on behalf of ASEAN. So this is something that is not a new departure, but I think is a building on of what we've done. Because without experiences from Brunei Darussalam to Cambodia, Indonesia, Lapidar, and now Malaysia, we're looking at all these experiences, how we've been dealing with Myanmar. And it's important that we have a permanent, a long-term special envoy. So that's one thing that came to realize. Second, of course, is that leaders call, as you could already read in the separate statement that was issued, and that is called for the ceasefire, I think a permanent ceasefire, okay, and the reduction of violence, and of course, to allow humanitarian assistance without impeded or block it at all. That we have, of course, leaders also looking at how we can scale up humanitarian assistance to support the people of Myanmar. So I think it's very clear that at the same time, I think under Malaysian chairmanship, there's been ongoing dialogue involving the different stakeholders. Those who basically on the grounds, meaning particularly those who in the ruling government there, but of course other stakeholders outside as well. So there's been, I would say, intensification of diplomacy there to engage. Yes. With regard to the US tariff, I think it's clear that the discussions have been looking at that, all of us have been impacted one way or another. There's so much uncertainties. There's so much disruption, what's happening there. And it's clear that the decision has been very straightforward, meaning that leaders supported what has been put out by both the ASEAN economic ministers and the ASEAN finance minister, and that is to not retaliate with the US, but to cooperate. I think this is very clear. So how to cooperate? We'll have to continue the negotiations, engaging the US. But at the same time, it gives so much impetus and motivation to what's happening, looking at what more can be done. Okay? And that's why I just mentioned to you about Attica and DIFA internally with ASEAN. And that ASEAN now is moving forward on the need to upgrade of all the bilateral FTAs that ASEAN has. All right, we have bilateral FTAs with China, have been complete already, upgrade, ready for signing also. With Korea, I think rather than starting next year, will be with fast track to this year, starting the negotiation or upgrading the bilateral FTA between ASEAN and Korea. So with Japan, ASEAN has already called on Japan to look at the review and upgrade of the current ASEAN-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Okay. Also, for the first time that I heard, I can share with you, I heard last year there was some discussion, but in fact, since 2 years ago, when the leaders had their first meeting with leaders from the GCC, the Cooperation Council, talk about framework cooperation. But FTA between the two regions were not really discussed much. Like, not really an issue, but last year GCC really wanted to have it. But our senior officials were, because they were preoccupied with so many things. But at the meeting, it was very clear that we have to look at this very seriously. A region-to-region FTA, all right, between ASEAN and GCC. Okay? This is the leaders that discuss this, they want to see this. Yeah. Let me move on quickly. Then, of course, as usual, leaders always take the time to meet with the ASEAN and the Parliamentary Assembly, or the heads of the parliaments from the 10 member states. Usually they have the interface dialogue to focus on what we can do together between the executive and the legislative branches of ASEAN. And then there was also a dialogue between ASEAN leaders and the ASEAN youth representatives. Leaders would listen to the recommendation from the young people, the youth. And finally, the leaders had the interface with the ASEAN Business Advisory Council. They came with a number of recommendations on how to strengthen the economic cooperation within the region as well. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, let me move on quickly to the second ASEAN-GCC summit, and later on the ASEAN-GCC-China summit. The leaders from both sides agreed that they would meet biannually, every 2 years, rotate between the two regions. So in 2023, they met in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. This year, they just met in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, because Malaysia is chair of ASEAN. And I think the focus was quite significant. It's not just economic, but certainly political also. There's a lot of discussions about Palestine, Gaza situation as well. I think what is clear is that as in leaders now, you can see that they support a two-state solution for Palestine, and they want to see the end of violence and a permanent ceasefire. Yes, and of course the release of all hostages. So all of that I think is clear. You can read, there's a separate statement that was issued there as well on ASEAN-GCC summit. Also, they want to intensify cooperation, including the Secretary cooperation as well. And of course, I've mentioned the FTA. I think we need to fast track this to look at how we can take advantage of the strengths from the two regions. We have to work from strength to strength between the two regions, particularly in terms of promoting more trade, more investment, more tourism cooperation, air connectivity, people exchange in the area of AI, emerging technologies, energy transition. So I think there's many areas that there was a lot of interest. There are a lot of interest. I have never seen anything more explicitly stated than this second ASEAN-GCC summit, that leaders took the time really had the very frank and candid discussions very openly. So I think from here onward, I think they also stress the need to focus on implementation. Yes, from here onward. Yes, so I would say we need to work together in the areas of mutual interest as the leaders have specified already. Excellency, I think for ASEAN, we have a lot of interest right now in the ASEAN power grid. It was also extensively discussed how we can invite the interested parties to join us in this important work of building the power grid. Yes. So I want to share with you that this is something that we want to move very fast on, because energy is key for I think all the countries around the world, particularly for ASEAN here. If we're looking at the 2.6-fold increase of energy demand in the next 20 years, we have a lot of work to do. Yeah. So I think this is something that we have to count on, working with our partners as well ourselves. Let me stop there, and I will move on to the ASEAN-China GCC, and then I will wrap up very soon, and then we have more time for maybe dialogue. Yes. For the ASEAN-GCC-China Summit, this is the first time that we have. I think we have to give the credit to Malaysia as the chair for initiating this, with the full support of all of the member states. They discuss a lot how we bring the three regions together. What are the and that is support the open, transparent, rule-based multilateral trading system. I think no one's retreating from this. I think from the three regions here, that we continue as it is, working with WTO, I think WTO, the principles, the policy, the practices there. So it's clear that this is something that we all continue to advocate. And I'm looking at what we can do with, among the three regions in terms of trades, investment, in terms of looking at the existing areas of cooperation and the new area. Now, of course, for ASEAN, we've been dealing with the two already. China is ASEAN comprehensive strategic partner, is the largest trading partner, is the second source of FDI. GCC is a region that we started 2 years ago at the summit level, and now we're embarking on a long-term basis. So GCC, of course, they can have more resources to invest in this region. They can share a lot more in terms of the energy sector. The same thing here for ASEAN, the focus on food security as well. I think it's important that the region here talk a lot also, of course, in terms of we call labor mobility as well, this issue, because we do have our citizens working in those countries. China, of course, as you all know, they have the market as well. ASEAN also is a market as well compared to GCC. But they also the manufacturing and of course technology. I think so much the strengths that we can capitalize on. Also, we have the regional conference in our partnership now, involved 15 countries. One idea was proposed was to have OSA, the regional comprehensive partnership, and GCC linking together. There's a link together. We produce a new synergy there. So I think we have to look at the complementary products and services, what we can do together to take advantage of each other. The idea is looking at how we can synergize economic opportunities in order to enhance shared prosperity. I think it's important there. Yes. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, but I would say that ASEAN continue to stress, and one underline is very important, ASEAN centrality and the ASEAN-led mechanisms, as well as the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific. I think certainly areas of cooperation we need to push is trade, digital technology, AI, e-commerce, fintechs, SMEs, people exchange, youth education, migrant workers. These are some of the issues that were discussed. Of course, the political issue would be the Palestine and Gaza. I think it's all clear that everyone wants to see the end of violence, the suffering of the people there. Yeah. And work on a long-term two-state solution. So this is, I think it's very clear that's been discussed. Finally, of course, for some ASEAN member states, particularly maritime member states, they have their regular sub-regional summits. Because for us in this region, the sub-regional arrangements, they are the building blocks of the ASEAN community. So the ASEAN Secretary was invited to participate because in ASEAN, we don't believe in a block. These are sub-regional arrangements. Yes, they're doing block as part of the ASEAN community. So I could tell that the PMICA basically Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, East Asia growth area, growth triangle. So this increase connectivity, human development, trade, and they have a lot of trade now. The same thing for the IMT-GT sub-regional summit, and that is Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand growth triangle that have been working together. So with that, I just want to say thank you very much. I would say the summits, 46 ASEAN summit related summits were quite successful. There were real-time discussions. And in fact, I want to share with you that prior to the 47th ASEAN Summit, there was the initiative to have a meeting among the ASEAN leaders to discuss on the impact of US tariffs on ASEAN. But because the election in Singapore, they were too close to the summit, in the end, they decided that they would take up this matter at the 46th ASEAN Summit. With that, thank you very much. I would be delighted to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SG Dr. Kao. We will now proceed with the Q&A session. For those present at the ASEAN Hall, please raise your hand if you wish to ask a question. And for our ACTC participant, please submit your question through the chat feature in the WebEx platform. Kindly state your name, institution, and the question. Due to the time constraint, we will take the first round of questions from the floor, please. Yes, we have one in the back. Our protocol colleague will assist with the microphone.
Good morning, Excellency. I'm Eno from National Radio of Indonesia. I have two questions. You've mentioned about the ASEAN Community Vision 2045, but could you please elaborate more what people needs to know about this vision? And second, at the summit, Indonesia said supports to PNG to be the new member of ASEAN. And also, as we know that PNG is the member of MSG, is it possible to accept PNG as a member? And then, do you have any comments about that? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Let me address the second question first. Yes, it was raised by His Excellency President of Indonesia during the retreat. Immediately, of course, I think the response from the chair, there was no discussion that that is something that our official would need to look into later. So because there was no discussion before, but as you know, based on ASEAN Charter, there are only 11 ASEAN member states. If we were to include the PNG, two issues would need to be addressed. One, of course, is to have a consensus of the now basically 11 countries. Second, to amend the charter. Yes. But again, it's the prerogative of all ASEAN member states to raise this issue. Second, of course, on the ACB 2045, again, as we embark on the action plans, there's going to be a lot of exercises that we involve the different stakeholders. Through the various mechanisms, meaning that they will be involved extensively to draft the action lines. Because what we have there right now, they are just mainly the strategic goals, objectives, and strategic measures. Under each strategic measure, we can have a number of action lines, what we need to do to carry out. So I think what people need to know is that through the various processes and mechanisms, they can be involved. Okay, for those in civil societies, they can involve through the various work they do. They can do through the involvement of the governments or the member states, or through their own, for example, set up IPA, the national parliament, for example, or through their own respective ministries. It depends on the kind of issue that they're interested. Okay, they are interested on what we call social cultural related issue, then it will be under that pillar. Political security will be under the political security pillar. Under the economic will be under economic pillar. I think there's all kinds of engagements. But again, this is the process that are still ongoing, particularly when it comes to defining the action lines. Yeah, action line is still a process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SG Dr. Kao. May we move on to the second round of question from the floor, please? If there's no question from the floor, can we move on with the ACTC participants? We also see none from the ACTC participant, SG Dr. Kao.
Well, thank you very much. Then I'm able to do my job very well here. Well, thank you. And yes.
Thank you very much, Excellency. SG Dr. Kao, for your views and comments. Excellencies, this marks the end of today's briefing by the Secretary-General of ASEAN. Thank you for your participation and have a good day.